Hello, everybody. I want to introduce a couple of people to you that I've been personally very inspired by. When I was contacted by Lori, can we come and share our story about my son Brad and the life-changing event that I Am was for him? I said absolutely, and then when they sent me their materials, I just melted. It's an amazing story. I'm not going to say too much about Brad. This is Brad Schmidt and his mother, Lori Schmidt. I'm not going to say too much about Brad because I want him to tell his story, and I want Lori to tell his story. But just briefly, he suffered from ADD, expressive language delay, social disconnect, and sensory motor challenges as a child. He's had a difficult journey and not a typical childhood. His mother, Lori, has a degree in education. She's taught for over 20 years in special education and early childhood, and she then founded I Am Focused in 2003 after her own son went through I Am training. And she has served approximately 400 individuals in northeastern Kansas, specializing in helping children with mildly involved diagnoses and neurotypical individuals. So I'm going to let them tell their story, and I hope you're as inspired as I was. And here they are.
Anyway, I'm Brad Schmidt, and yep, I'm the feel-good story. And I think what's wonderfully feel-good about this story is how typical it is for the atypical child going through I Am. I went through Interactive Metronome December of my senior year of high school. I would call that the last minute.
Yeah, lunch.
It very much changed my life. I was headed on a track towards straight dead end, and now I'm an occupational therapist. And I think I would say that's a pretty good career. I don't know if anyone else agrees with me. But I'm a case study of one, highly biased to myself, so take it as it is. But the person I probably have to thank the most would be my mom. She's the one that got this. While growing up, she was my frontal lobe. And I will let her tell that portion of the story because she knows it better than I do.
So we're going to go back and forth here, but I do have to share that today's a special occasion because we get to talk in front of you guys to share our story, but my oldest daughter has a little boy, and today's his second birthday. Okay, so I had 3 children, Kendra and Brad and Paul. And this was when Brad was a sophomore and Kendra was a senior and Paul was in 6th grade. And we had a really typical looking family, and that's why this is a very typical story. And there are a lot of children that fall through the cracks that don't qualify for services, but oh my goodness, they need services. And Brad was one of those.
Okay. So he had a perfect score on a science ACT. And so you'd think, oh my goodness, actually all 3 of my children were in the gifted program, smart kids. I just had smart kids. But he had so many challenges from the time he was 6 months old. Okay, you do it. And so our story really begins as a senior in high school. And he was 6th in his class of 250 at Topeka West, small town, Kansas. And his diagnosis was gifted with attention deficit. I think he was high-functioning Asperger's, is what I think he was. But he was never diagnosed that.
Tested too well.
So, but there was another side of Brad, because this looks like, oh, perfect family. This is the other side of him. Okay, so we We tried medication. I was first grade, I'm not going to medicate this child. He's too smart. Fourth grade, whatever it takes to make him succeed, because he's not succeeding. So I've gone through that. He went through counseling at Menningers. Somebody from Houston talked with me last night, said they had Menningers now. We used to have them. He went to counseling at Menningers. Didn't change him at all. He daily still had tears as a sophomore, junior, and senior in high school, pre-IM. It was meltdowns. Even to wash his face at nighttime or in the morning, it's like, Brad, did you remember your face? Did you brush your teeth? And he's like 16 years old. And so I skipped this part too. I was supposed to tell you, I was going to read this. 6 months old, I noticed he had limited eye contact. He had auditory taste and tactile sensitivity. Early on, covered his ears, all that stuff. Didn't eat hardly anything. Poor fine and gross motor skills. He was emotionally fragile, socially isolated. He had language delays, though not diagnosed. He definitely difficulty transitioning. He had specialties. He spent his 5th grade summer reading a trigonometry book the entire summer. So those were his pre-high school behaviors. I had to make that pretty short. Okay, so now, he's Papa Murphy's Charities case. There is a pizza place called Papa Murphy's where all you do is you make the pizzas and you send them home with the people to bake them. So it's a take and bake pizza place. And that's where we pushed him to get a job, and he got a job. And the manager stopped giving him hours. And so I said, Brad, go find out why you're not getting any hours. And he came home and he said, I don't make pizzas fast enough. He's going to have me come in and make pizzas for him. And so he went in and he made pizzas for him. And he kept his 3 to 5 hours a week. And I know he kept the job for 3 to 5 hours a week just because the manager knew we were a nice family and he was their charity case. So this is a junior in high school. He can't even though he's got a 36 on his ACT, he can't even function in the lowest type of job you can imagine. So as a senior in high school, he's getting all these colleges asking him, offering all this scholarship, and I don't think he can make it at college. So we pretend his senior year, Brad, we're just gonna pretend like you're at college. I'm not gonna help you time manage. I'm just gonna send you out on your own. You're gonna do it. And we had spent so much time doing those things. Within 6 months, he had 2 D's and an F. Now, you knew he was very smart and he was 6th in his class, and so he totally fell flat in his face. That ended us up in the doctor's office 10 years ago this month, 10 years ago in October, and me in tears saying, isn't there anything else out there? And he said, there's this new program, Interactive Metronome. It's worth a try. So December of Brad's senior year, he went through Interactive Metronome in 2003. Okay, so that's a general overview of Brad's life. I'm going to get into the very specifics. This is where you this weekend can take advantage of him. Some things we diagnose as certain behaviors in our kids, and when you talk with Brad, it's a different mental processing happening than you think it is. So I'm going to talk about facial recognition. This is Brad in preschool, and this is him in his confirmation class. And it's the same 25 kids. We went to a small private school, and those 25 kids are the kids he went to school with for 10 years, preschool through 8th grade. And he never called people by names. He said, hey, you. He even called Tim and I, hey, you, sometimes. And I blew it off. He's sort of quirky, he doesn't pay attention to, he's not interested in social connections, so why would he care? His language processing was hard to get things out, so maybe he just didn't want to take the time. It was so much easier to say, hey, you. But it was after IM that he came home from college one day, which he went on to college, by the way, and said, you know what, Mom? I don't think I recognized faces when I was a child, because I remember that I would go to the mall with you and be following behind you and being afraid of being separated, because I knew that if I got lost, the policeman would ask, what does your mom look like? And he would have to say, I don't know. So he remembers being afraid because he didn't even know what I looked like. Okay, so this is Brad's insight.
So I'm fairly certain I actually didn't say I didn't recognize faces. Because I'm actually fairly clear on this point of little contingent. I recognize faces. The problem was linking up that bit of information with other bits of information, such as names. So, and the problem would be linking up the names to faces. If the police officer came and asked me, what does your mom look like? I would say she looked like Mom. But there's no face to that. It doesn't attach the information together. And this just is a disconnect between the information I was seeing and the information that I knew. Really important other attributes that are very important. Personality attributes, friend or foe attributes. So if I got bullied a lot. I was the kid who cried. I got bullied. And I know that I put myself in situations with the bully, and every single time I've met him, he'd bullied me before, but didn't innately recognize that this was the bully, that that was going to be the interaction. And the problem with that is, so my entire class then, I had all these faces out there that I saw, but without linking up any information to them, I was living in a schizophrenic world filled with schizophrenic people. Because the people were the same, but it didn't click, didn't connect. And so every person acted crazy. Thus meltdowns. If you're living in a crazy world, you're going to be a little crazy.
All right, so what I called facial recognition, Brad put as attribute assignment. He didn't attribute personality traits with faces. He didn't connect those things. They were disconnected. Oh, I forgot to hit the so that was one piece of information that was different once I actually started talking to him. Another one was lack of initiation. Brad never initiated as a child. So he's like the third grade, you want your child to take responsibility. So we would give Brad the job of, guess what? Your family chore is going to be to take out the garbage every day. And you just do that. And, you know, 4th grade comes and 5th grade comes and he's still not taking out the trash. What else do you have to do today, Brad? Look, what do you have to do? And you're getting frustrated with this, so you say, you know, if you don't take out the trash, we might like dock your allowance a little bit, or we might, you know, we try all these different, I'm a special ed background, all these behavior modification things. And at 7th grade, then the trash can is sitting on the bed because it's not getting taken out. And by the time he's in 9th grade, you know, you do the, we'll just let it overflow. He's got to see that. And he never did it. So as a senior in high school, when he's got a 36 in his ACT, pre-IM, he would walk right by the trash. 1 month after IM started, I'm sitting on the computer in the next room, and I hear somebody in the kitchen, Brad, what are you doing? I'm taking out the trash. I am jumping up and down. It is like, so I walk in there and I say, Brad, 4 months ago you would walk right by that trash can. It didn't matter if it was all over the floor and you would not take it out. And today you stopped and you took it out. I want you to tell me what's different in your brain between then and now. I thought it was initiation. Here's his explanation.
So how I explain how my brain felt during that, frequently I would walk around doing nothing. just wander. And I felt like that was walking through a glass tunnel. And I could see outside the tunnel, and the tunnel branched in portions, and there was a branch that took out the trash. But then as I would walk towards it, that branch would close up before I even got to it. And so it just wasn't even an option to move out of this tunnel of doing nothing to do something else. Another way I like to think about it, if you're that sort of minded, is inertia. I'm a semi-truck, doing nothing, moving around. And what it would take for me to take out the trash, I would see it, but I'd have to stop, turn on a dime, to move over, to pick it up, to take it out. And that just wasn't happening. My brain was not that agile. Now, as a counterpoint, a story I have post-IM, but actually during my graduate studies, so this is, 6 or 7 years post-IM, in OT school, me and my classmates were sitting around in the hallway studying some big practical, and an undergraduate walks by and faints, just drops to the floor. And apparently I was told I was the first person to get up and head over to help her. It's a quick thing, so I don't really know how fast it happened, but my classmates said I was the first one to move, and they're surprised by how quickly I moved. And I was on a task. I was in that tunnel with that inertia of studying, yet when a situation arose, I was able to jump up, change task, turn on a dime, and do something else. And I would not have been able to do that pre-IM, I'm certain.
So what I thought was lack of initiation, he described as cognitive flexibility. I think cognitive flexibility is hugely impacted by Interactive Metro. So, so social skills. I was in denial like every parent when Brad was born, like he's a boy and Kendra was a girl, and yeah, I know I have play dates, and he sort of like walks off by himself and does his own thing instead of playing with the kids, but at school he's more connected. He's got to interact with some people at school, and so I knew socially he was pretty distant in what I observed, but my hopes were that school was a little bit different. And so this was probably 4th grade when I stopped by the school to pick up the kids, and I was in the hallway, and there's a picture of Brad on a new poster in the hallway, one of the kids' projects, Signs of Spring. So I walked up to the poster, oh, Brad, and he was leaning against the wall, and he had a book in his hand like this, and I read the inscription, Brad, a sign of spring, when Brad is no longer wearing gloves while reading his book at recess. And so that told me, at that point, I knew, that was when I realized that I could no longer be in denial, that he was really very, very socially disconnected, and it was life impacting. So anyhow, I didn't want to cry. Here you
go. So, the social gains of IM, I would say, are my favorite. I like friends. Pre-IM, I've been debating over this because I know I had people I hung out with, but I don't particularly know if I would call any of them friends. I didn't climb the social web at all. I didn't see the social web at all. Mostly I just got stuck in the social web a whole bunch. Still didn't see it. So I went through IM December of my senior year of high school, and I think the best test of how many friends you have is who shows up to your open house. Because an open house is where you open your door and everyone who considers you a friend worth enough to take the time to go out and see will come and visit. And so 4 months after I had this open house, and it was a full open house. 80% of those people I was hardly even an acquaintance with before I am. But I sat around on the sofa with a sofa full of people, talking, interacting, having fun for hours. And I think that's just a wonderful thing, just to be able to hang out. Before I would sit by people, and post I would sit with people. And before I'd walk around people, and post I'd walk with people. That's very different. Now, the moment that really crystallized my social gains and is, if not the best moment of my life, but at least in the top 5, is the first day of marching band at college. And the first day of band camp, everyone's sitting down the halls waiting for things to start. And I remember looking down the hallways and thinking that I could make a connection with any person there. And it was a wonderful thing to be able to know I could make a friend. I could meet someone new, make all these connections. And it's just a wonderful thing. I like it.
Okay, so that one we're going to skip because we were short on time. So we're going to go on to metacognition. I define metacognition as the ability to think about your own mental processes, think about your own thoughts, to know what you're thinking. And Brad I didn't know why he said, I don't know. I sort of thought it was because he didn't like to talk very much, so I don't know if it was an easy answer. But when I would ask him questions like, what do you think about that? I don't know. Or, did that medication help? I don't know. And he'd be frustrated. You know, like, how are you feeling? I don't know. They were just like, that's the answer I got from Brad through his entire, even into high school. So he did not have access to his own thoughts. That's another area I think IM impacts greatly. We'll talk about how metacognition helps you emotionally.
So I jumped straight from metacognition to emotional stability because I find that was my most important game with metacognition. How I define it. Because I was a crier. And the problem with that is I didn't see my own emotions before I expressed them. I knew as much about my emotions as the person sitting next to me. Anything I felt was on my face, and that's when I knew I was feeling it. So, if I would get stressed out, it would just come out. And that's the perfect bully target. That's what bullies love, is the person that they can play with the emotions. And metacognition allows me to see what my emotional brain is doing before it comes to the surface. And so I can stop it or show it. And they can't just get a rise out of me. Post IM, I didn't have those meltdowns uncontrolled. I still had emotions, but could hold them off until a private time. There's the title of our presentation, Joy and Grief. We've talked a whole bunch about the happiness here, but there's also a sad bit that goes along with it. Because I'm aware of my problems. I'm aware of my childhood and the loss that it has been. There once was a boy with a childhood, but he's different than the man before you today. I have to grieve the loss of my childhood. It's not the childhood I would have wanted. Has given me so much. It has given me pride in myself and my accomplishments, the ability to feel pride. It's given me the ability to work with others for a common goal. The ability just to enjoy life and be silly when appropriate. The ability to just sit quietly and do absolutely nothing. To be able to feel the closeness and connections of friends and family. And to feel the most important connections of all.
He's a newlywed.
Interactive metronome, as I've said before, I'm saying now, and I'm sure I'll say in the future, is a rebirth of my mind. Thank you for listening to my story.